I'm quite nervous with filming this just because it's on top of an oatmeal box, but there's no oatmeal left in the box. So it's an empty box that this camera is hovering over. I don't want it to fall. Dude, we made it. We made it. It's late outside, so, and you can see from the bags under my eyes, I took a caffeine pill. I'll actually show it to you. I bought it today from like one of the closest supplement store. It's like 140 milligrams of caffeine. But it's not gonna eroding. It's not gonna erode the bags under my eyes for this lecture, but we made it to law number 48. And there's a ton of things that I want to go over. I have it very structured, so I have a lot of final notes. I just read or reread, because I had read the law when I was in California, so I reread it right now. But there's a ton of things I want to go over. It's going to be in sequence, and then I want to share with you. I don't know if I should start with the news, or I should end with it. It's pretty exciting. Maybe I'll end with it. Maybe I'll keep you on that cliffhanger. So let's start with the notes. Assume formlessness. It's interesting that this is the last law, just because when I think of the totality of the 48 laws of power, the whole game, essentially, particularly when you're working in the rat life, is being the perfect courtier. Being the perfect courtier. And that's in a lot of the bullet points of the notes, but I can just from the top of my head, from a lifetime of my work experience, and anybody who's ever been in an office job, in a corporate job, in a rat life 9 to 5, you know the contour that you've had to do to your truth. You know the formlessness that you had to adapt to the mask of your face when somebody would say something very stupid, when somebody would act with selfish intent or cowardice, when somebody would say something incredibly ignorant, or you just garbage people, just with a lot of patience that you would have to utilize, a lot of I'm not going to let this get under my skin because this minimum wage job isn't fucking worth the energy expenditure kind of a mindset. Every person can relate to that sentiment. You've had to, within the course of your tenure of your working life, assume a degree of formlessness. You had to be a degree of a courtier. You had to wear one, if not 1,000 masks. I'm going to be licking my lips during this lecture. It's been dry outside. I don't know if it's dry outside or it's dry inside because I have the AC running, but it's one of the two. But my bottom lip specifically, I've just been... but I'm sure you can resonate with that. So that's how I want to frame it within the rat life, so that you understand exactly how this is a strategy for war and deception. Because if somebody says something like that would otherwise trigger you, or that does trigger you, but you don't react, they don't know that that's a button that they can press to arise and provoke you, to arise, or to gain a reaction from you, whether it's anger, whether it's resentment, whether it's cause for provocation, for retaliation back at these fucking idiots, right? If you assume like unbothered, unfazed, formless, then they don't know where to attack. They don't know how to get under your skin. They don't know how to manipulate you. And that's how you can, there's a good quote, I don't want to end with it, but to succeed at such a strategy, you must play the chameleon, conform on the surface while breaking down your enemy from the inside. That's the name of the game. So here are my notes. We're gonna go over them in order. Excuse the bags under the eyes, and hopefully we can get through this. It's late right now. So right now it's 10:30, so there's less fucking noise outside, which is awesome, but I also want to be considerate of my neighbors. So hopefully you don't mind the calm voice demeanor for the last law. And then in a separate video, I'm going to do book number, it's either 23 or 24 within the university, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. So, and that will go over my whole, how I ended the last video, my sort of summary on with you utilizing these laws, it's the best way for you to combat things that you'll never be taught in school. It's the best way to arm yourself against what you're going to inevitably be faced when you go into the rat life, which is manipulation, which is deception, which is bullying, which is harassment, which is garbage, right? Which is you being subject to the authority and the rules of people who are very incompetent, and I just learned in my last lecture, pedophilic individuals. So these tools will help you just sustain your mental health, if not arise within your own power, whether it's you climbing within the rat life ranks or you reclaiming your own freedom, outside of that fucking who gives a shit office and made up title with dumbass coworkers. Okay. Assumed formlessness, law number 48. People can't attack what they can't see. And I put in parentheses, or poison what they don't know. And I put as a note underneath that, sharing your dreams. When I was younger, I was very, is it cavalier? Is that the word? I don't know the word. I was very liberal with information that I would share with other people. I had that legally blonde, that's my spirit animal, legally blonde. Think of Elle Woods. I had that, naivety, gullibility, just sense of that in me in my purest form, right? Just pure love and light. And I just had that assumption that everybody else had those same well intentions, that those same, we're raised similarly. Like treat other people how you would want to be treated. If you don't have something nice to say, don't have to say anything at all. Like the basic etiquette, And that's the position that I held. And so I would overshare. I would share people with my goals and my dreams and my ambitions and my aspirations and everything quite openly. Not understanding human ego, not understanding human insecurity, not understanding people's cowardice and fear. What I mean by that is there's a quote from Greg Plitt. Your success is like a spotlight shining down on their missed opportunity. And it doesn't even have to be your success that, acts as that mirror exposing their, they could have done this, I could have been that person, whatever. And then that's where you'll get hate and criticism from your peers, from friends, or even from family or coworkers. But it's even the ambition to pursue something that they're afraid to do. That with the insecure person can arise a sense of animosity towards you. I didn't know that when I was younger, just because I live in a abundance mindset, not a scarcity and lack mindset. I know that my success, and I met a woman, where was I? Dusseldorf, Germany, this past summer, named Kan Ai, a Japanese woman. She said, I don't even view it as winning or losing. It's just you living your life, in peace and happiness and fulfillment. And it was a beautiful observation. So to that effect, just one person choosing to live their life with love and with light in their heart, and then other people can view that, what do you call it, where you can measure something as statistically successful, whatever. To the person who's residing in lack and scarcity, they have a zero-sum mindset, meaning your success, for the sake of this conversation, in some fucking way, in their delusion of a perspective of the world, takes away from their potential success, right? That's a scarcity mindset. But I understand from having an abundant mindset that my happiness, success, however you want to articulate it, in no way whatsoever takes away from yours at all, in the slightest. In fact, if you're not clapping for somebody else, there's a good quote, I'm going to clap for others until it's my turn to win. If you're not seeing other people's victories and successes and wins as a source of motivation and inspiration for you, and you're just viewing it as a means to throw this bitterness and animosity and negativity and garbage, you don't have a good mindset. And it's just a reflection of your poor mentality and outlook on life. You know what I'm saying? There's a good quote. They attribute it to Christian Bale. I don't think he coined it. You'll never be criticized by someone doing more than you, ever. And anybody who's been on the path, who's walked the narrow path, who's taken the leap of faith, who's pursued entrepreneurship, who's who's had the courage to pursue in any theater, any endeavor in life, they know how hard the road is ahead. They know all the work involved. And I would say 999 times out of 1,000, if they're not like an arrogant prick, they're going to come to you with love and compassion and understanding because they know the road that they traveled and how fucking hard it is. And so they don't give a shit that you know, have how you look, where you are, your, you know, weakness, your novicity. I don't know if that's a word if I'm making it up. How incompetent, ignorant, naive you are at the time. They admire the courage to try, to show up, to give efforts, because they know how much courage it takes to start an endeavor, and then how much strength and perseverance and will it takes to see a transformation of any kind in any theater of life to fruition. So that's the first thing. So what I did was, as I've grown and as I've matured, I safeguarded a lot of my personal information, my goals and my dreams and my visions and my ambitions, just because you learn, quite unfortunately, that most people don't have your best interests at heart. You sharing good news with the most people within your life, it's just going to be met with resentment, with bitterness, with animosity, with hatred, with garbage, just because it's all projection of them. Their fear, their lack mindset, their insecurity, their ingratitude, their cowardice, and that has nothing to fucking do with you. And so that was a lesson that I had to learn within my development over the past few years, is just to keep that only privy to those who are not on a fucking need to know basis. Like it's if your circle is greater than these many people, you don't have any friends. That's the quote that I'm butchering. If you have more friends than you can count on with one hand, you don't have any friends. And it's very, very true. I, in Brazil, I would say made one real friend, who's he's a class act. He uses profanity. Maybe it's Brazilian culture. I was at his house. He invited me for Christmas dinner, which I didn't know that Brazilians, they celebrated a day before, and so we were staying up so fucking past midnight, way past my bedtime. And then while his daughter, it was either his daughter or his son with his wife were in the other room, he was like, "These motherfuckers are," just like, "Yo, chill." And then he'll say, "Oh my gosh, I love this person so much, and I'm so grateful, and I always ask God, why me? What I do deserve this, the like." And so, the love and the gratitude, all of that is there, but it was interesting. But this guy, this Marcelo, he's a class act of a real larger than life, Christ-like, God-like figure. He's not only a leader when it comes to his wife, and a great provider, protector when it comes to his kids, but he's a leader within the community. He's a leader within. I was doing a one-on-one boxing private class training session with him at a park a couple days ago, and people came up to him and he's like, I think it was it the morning? He's like, "Bom dia, maestro." It was like, "Good morning, master." And he was like, "Oh yeah, good morning, thank you." And I was like, "With that, how do you fucking know everyone here? You're a celebrity, like what?" And that happened twice. He was recognized twice at a random park that was an Uber right away for both. It was just, it just goes to show you that he's such a leader within the community, because of his character, his integrity, his, someone who's embodied the integrity of a champion for years and years and years. But I'm saying that to say that's one person that I can share with. And while I was sitting with him on his couch, we were talking about another guy he introduced me to, another acquaintance right now, soon to be friend, deeper relationship as time goes by. Humble. So this guy is also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but I promise I'll bring it back full circle. And he was like, "This guy, man, we've been to like war together, as in we laugh together, we sweat together, we've bled together, we've cried together," and it's just that level of that's a real man-to-man friendship. You know what I'm saying? That's somebody you can share your goals and your fears and your insecurities and your dreams and your ambitions with. Somebody who's going to be more excited for your success and for your victories and when you win than if they get like a personal win or personal record or new accolade or achievement. And I mean, I know that from coaching people. It's like when I have somebody who's in my garden, if you will, who I have who's under my care, my responsibility to lead or to guide or to teach, what have you. And they, I know in their heart, want it more badly for themselves than I want it for them. Who they're not looking for somebody to save them, but they're just looking for that one key, that one bridge of knowledge, of, experience, of wisdom, whatever, that's gonna, fuel the fire and help them see their until their breakthrough to fruition, beyond that breaking point. I am more excited and stoked and elated for their victory or success than any of mine, bar none. But that's real abundance, and that's real just operating with unconditional love. That's not a scarcity, that's not a lack mindset. So I'm saying all of that to say, to make the long story long, you need to be very careful who you share your goals and dreams and ambitions with, because, and I know this from family, if you overshare, then they'll use it as points of poison. What I mean by that is they'll come into your life and they'll plant, how you can plant seeds of belief within somebody? They'll plant seeds of doubt. And it's so fucked up when somebody does that. When someone is so irresponsible with their speech that they can potentially plant seeds of doubt and be careful and what about this and worry about this, that is just a projection of their own bullshit, their own insecurity, their own fear, their own lack, their own cowardice. And because they're not happy within themselves, they feel the need to put you down or to discourage you or to invite, to insinuate, to poison you with doubt. And it's a fucking cancer. And so what I've learned is you have to enact the quote from Jim Rohn. You have to stand guard at the doorway of your mind, which sucks. And the reason why it sucks, and I knew this from people who I've had to entertain for fucking years, is you have to constantly be present and on alert. You can't let go around those kind of fucking people. As in, when you let go, when you drop your guard, when you're this, then all of that garbage can come into your beautiful garden. All of these fucking parasites and these weeds and these garbage influences and these poisonous parasitic creatures and their mindset and their views and this battery's gonna die. So it's exhausting, because you have to put on this mask of standing guard at the doorway of your mind in order to combat that. So even if you have love for these people, you have to keep them at arm's distance, at arm's reach at all times. I'm gonna change the battery. 1 sec. Even changing the battery is like I feel like Indiana Jones right now, when he takes it's like the gold idol, and he's like trying to do, no, Indy, I don't touch anything. Okay. I think I've hit the point on that one. You need to be careful of who you share your private need to know information with, just because you learn as you get older, even though you can retain that Elle Woods spirit and that love and that light, keeping people who do not have your best interest at heart, who would just offer criticism, condemnation, judgment, garbage within your dreams, your goals. You don't have to fucking explain yourself, justify yourself, ration out with fucking any of these people. So that being said, you don't need to even allow them the privilege to be in your garden. Okay? And that's something that I had to learn the hard way from the people who I loved and trusted the most. So take my advice or suffer the consequences. Okay. So the next bullet point is the pursuit of truth, your authentic self. So when you think of assuming formlessness, it's getting away from your authentic self, right? Because when you're assuming this fucking perfect courtier, that's a mask, that's a contour, that's a dimming of your shine. That's 1,000 iterations of that. Like the example that I used in an earlier lecture. Imagine you do one layer of saran wrap around you. Yeah, you're still transparent. I can still see you. You can still shine your light. But imagine 1,000 fucking iterations of that, right? You're no longer transparent. I can't see who you are. I just see the person that you're fucking pretending to be for the world, or for your job, or for your peers or family or whatever. So that is a huge danger warning when I say the pursuit of truth, your authentic self. And I love the quote, we're all walking each other home. So the goal, I know we're talking about the laws of power, right? To be this covetous, scheming weasel rat, to elevate yourself within the rat life, you can utilize this law. But to pursue your godlike divinity, getting closer to your authentic self, you on your pursuit of truth, is getting away from this garbage, is us walking each other home. When I act as my most authentic self, that's a mirror for someone else. Meaning somebody sees me acting, reciting with authenticity, that plants a seed of possibility, of belief within them that it's possible for them to express themselves as they are. Do you understand? So I want to share a quote with you that I thought was beautiful because I've lived this out in real time. I weep, this is from The Alchemist. There's a story where Narcissus goes to the banks. He dies from like drowning, looking at himself at his reflection of the water, this bank. And the alchemist, he goes to the bank and he says, was Narcissus so beautiful? Or he was beautiful, right? Something like that. And is that because he came there, I'm butchering the fuck out of it, and he saw the bank crying. Okay. It'll make sense after I read this quote. I weep for Narcissus, but I never noticed that Narcissus was beautiful. I weep because every time he knelt beside my banks, I could see in the depths of his eyes my own beauty reflected. And I thought that was so fucking beautiful. This might have been a year ago. I don't remember the exact day. I was in the second to final round of an interview for the promotional version of my last job. And for some reason on the day, I was on God mode. I was on cloud nine. I had the spirit of God within me walking into that room. And I think I even did do that prayer. I said, please God, like go ahead of me in this, before this interview kind of deal. And I just had the utmost relax. My heart rate wasn't elevated. I was so happy and full of glee. Imagine Elle Woods in her application to go to Harvard, that video, that's who I was in that room. And there was like 8 other people in here who, except for the superintendent, it was all of the highest authorities of the school district. Fucking the I don't know what it's called, CBO, who's like in charge of all the fiscal operations of their entire, budget. So the head of their finance, then they had the, assistant superintendent here, assistant superintendent there, and then they had a level like above them. It was like the chief of staff. I don't know all of the made up fucking titles, but it was all of them. And I was on. And when I walked out, I looked into the eyes of one of the women who she just was so thrilled, and it was like an honor for her to have me there, kind of a deal. And I looked into her eyes and I saw this fucking light, this sparkle. And I thought it was so beautiful. And I swear to God, in that moment, I said to myself in reflection after I left, I said, I swear, like on my honor, I saw the Spirit of God in her eyes. It wasn't until I meditated on that and reflected on that quite extensively did I come to understand that I realized what I saw and what I experienced was this quote. It wasn't that I saw the Spirit of God within her. I saw myself reflected through her eyes. And I just thought that was so, so cool. And that's happened before. I remember I was on a drive. This was at one of my moments of despair from work because I was getting this garbage from my serpent superior. And I was so upset and I was so furious. And I didn't understand. I was like, how can she not let go? Why? It was clear as day to me. I didn't understand that she was a mirror for me not being able to let go at that time. And I said, and then I coached myself on that drive. I was like, is it because you need to let go? Like, is she just a reflection, that mirror, for me? Everyone, when I say everyone is a mirror walking yourself home, you have to have that presence and that humility to look for, if you're on your pursuit of truth, that's what you look for in people. Okay, what is this? It's so clear as day what this person has an ego or that they can't let go or that they're tolerating disrespect, whatever. That's a reflection of you, for your journey home, for your development, for your highest nature's design, for you to achieve authenticity, for you on your path of truth. But most people, they don't self-analyze, they don't self-reflect, they don't view every single person that they interact with as a gift sent for them. So I coached myself through it on the drive. I said, sweetheart, you're holding on to this. It was a woman. This woman, you need to let go. And I literally coached myself through. I said, and the fear was, and I asked myself, I said, why are you so afraid to let go? And I said, because I feel like letting go is giving up. And through tears, I physically, emotionally, spiritually felt myself completely release and surrender to myself, to God, right? I go, and it was incredibly like, oh my God, like a weight, as if a weight being lifted. If you've ever seen the visual of someone holding onto a rope, and they're holding on, and you see this red, and you see this bleeding on their hand, and then it says, the quote was, and then they're slowly releasing, and you see all of the pressure dissipate. And the mantra behind it was, sometimes letting go, I'm gonna fucking butcher it, is, hurts less or whatever than holding on. You understand what I'm trying to say. Like, some people, they're giving themselves so much pain and agony, not from fucking letting go, which would literally provide them with so much relief, but just fucking holding on, and that's what I learned from Bashar, the entity that Daryl channels that we've discussed in this video. That's insistence. Insistence is resistance. So when you're thinking about truth and the pursuit of truth and authenticity, it's the path of least resistance. That's flow. So whenever you have to hold on to something and you're so afraid of, letting it go, that's lack. And I had the conversation with Marcelo to bring it full circle. I said, no one can take what's meant for you. And he said, I completely agree. So if there's a person who whose name is written next to yours, no one can fucking take what is meant for you, who is meant for you. And I believe that within all of my heart. But I share that story because after I surrendered and after I let go, I went to Costco and I was at the checkout, and I was like, it was as if I was on like ecstasy. I felt such a high, and I have to, it's from letting go, and it's from being so awake, where you're so present in your consciousness that it's literally your energy level is so high that you're going and all you're doing is people watching, because you're seeing all of these people who are asleep and who are sleepwalking through their day, and it's like you're Neo plugging yourself back into the Matrix, and you're awake in the video game. It's incredible. I go to the checkout, and there was a super muscular girl. Like, she had ridiculous arms, and I paid her that compliment of like, dude, you are jacked, kind of a deal. And then she's like really shy. She's like looking at the money or whatever, like to give me my change. And then she looks up at like the last second, and I'm already like obviously looking at her because I'm just fucking standing there as the customer, ready to get my change and leave. She looks up at me, and I see that same sparkle, that same, I swear to God, the spirit of God in her eyes, before I take my change and wish her the best. And in my reflections, once again, I was like, no, that wasn't her. You didn't see the spirit of God in her. You saw the spirit of God in you through her eye. They were reflecting that back at you, and it's awesome, and it's so beautiful. But that is on this side of letting go, which is on this side of pursuing authenticity, which is on this side of being walked home. Other people, you taking advantage of the fact that other people are being served as a mirror for your spiritual enlightenment, development, progression. Because that's the whole name of the game. When you take out all the bullshit, which is the made up titles and the made up degrees and the politics and all the garbage and negativity and trash, the name of the entire game of life is us residing within our fully authentic, godlike, divine selves. Everything else is a fucking distraction from that. Like, it's just remembering. We're here to remember our power, remember our divinity, remember our fucking limitless strength and glow and light. And it's removing the 1,000 fucking programmings and conditionings and projections and do this and you can't do, and limitations and bullshit from everyone else. A lifetime of conditioning of other motherfuckers telling you what you can do, what's possible, who you need to be, how you need to conform. trash, and you remove that and you get back to the golden light, that ball of radiance and sunshine that is your truest self. Does any of that make sense? So I understand that this is a law of power that you can use to be one of these, cunning and, I don't want to say rats and serpents, because in the rat life, at least for myself personally, it was a formlessness that I had to take in order just to survive. As in, when you're surrounded by conniving fucking serpents and abundant stupidity and abundant arrogance and abundant naivety and ignorance and bigotry and all of this bullshit, you have to wear that fucking contour mask lest you be one of their, next targets, kind of a deal. And I'm not complaining for it, but I'm the living consequence of what happens when you take off the mask. As in, I remember the day where I just went into my serpent's office and I had like this, and I was so physically exhausted, like I was at the point of the brink and beyond, where I couldn't even fake it anymore. I couldn't even pretend to be that jester. I couldn't even fake the laughter. I couldn't even fake the smile anymore. Like, I was so fucking defeated by the disrespect, the bullying, the treachery, the deception, the lies, the manipulation, the immaturity, the gaslighting, all of it. It was you can only take so much, kind of deal. And I was like way up here and beyond. And I just took it off. And then I was like, it was so relieving. It was so, it is exhausting playing a character that's not you. And if you do that over the course of your entire life, within your working life, within your relational life, your soul will be on fire and you will be living in such a fucking miserable state. And when you feel the euphoria on the other side of being yourself, that pressure relief from you fucking swimming to the surface and finally being able to take a breath of air that you've been fucking drowning otherwise. You've been suffocating by the 1,000th layer of saran wrap. It's a freedom you never want to give back. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I just said, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call out the disrespect. I'm just as guilty as the one doing the fucking disrespect when I stand idle. You know what I'm saying? And that's what set the entire domino effect of the retaliation, which is illegal, from my serpent superior, who was also illegally coercing with my other superiors in order to get me fired, which is also illegal. But that's what I was combating by speaking the truth, by calling out the injustice, by standing at the vanguard of, being a martyr, essentially. But you and your dream life is on that side of the narrow path. It's not the path everybody else travels. It's not the path where you fucking have a still tongue and you're too much of a coward to speak the truth, to speak up against injustice, whether that's in your familial life, whether that's in the rat life. And most people, they harbor that cowardice. Oh no, I'm going to lose my job. Yeah, but what about your fucking integrity? What about your soul? I drew that line in the sand with one of the other, faggot is the best word I can use to describe him. Weak, insecure rodent in a position of authority. Just an insect and a cuck of a man. I can't even classify him as a man. And he was threatening to call the superintendent in order to basically intimidate me to getting fired. And I said, I have no fucking qualms with losing my job on the basis of integrity. Do it. And when you stand up to these bullies and these cowards once, dude, they cower so fucking quickly. They're like chihuahuas. It's remarkable. But my point in saying all of this is, that's the price that you're going to pay when you pursue the narrow path. You're not doing it for fucking security within the rat life, which is what I've learned in my path is, when you align with God, you don't get to play the game like everybody else. As in the game of conformity, the game of forfeiting your authenticity and your uniqueness. You're too powerful, you're too important, the reason that you're here is it's invaluable, it's way too dire, it's way too necessary, that from me personally, you're not allowed to walk the path that everybody else travels. And if you do, I'm going to, and this is me speaking as God for me, I'm going to ensure that your soul is on fire. I'm going to ensure that you're living in there's the quote that I've said before, most men lead quiet lives of desperation. It's not going to be a quiet life of desperation. You're going to be in agony every day. You're going to be miserable when you go home from work, screaming at the top of your lungs in your car, not wanting to live anymore when you get to your house, compensating with whether it's, I was using cigars that I didn't know was stress related. I was having fucking heart contractions and palpitations that would induce fucking multiple ER visits. That was just from all of the stress, and which I got anxiety for the first time, which I've never had in my entire life. But however you might find yourself compensating, whether that's through nicotine, whether that's through alcohol, whether that's through drugs, whether that's through scrolling, swiping, I don't know. But that's going to be the price that you pay for betraying your truth. So I'm saying all of that to say, yes, you can use this law to survive. I did. I had to. You can use this law to maneuver and slither like a serpent snake, or you can have the courage to speak your truth and to align with truth and to align with God. And that is the only path that leads to what I would say is heaven on earth. The path all traveled will lead you to hell, of comfort, of complacency. That's where progression goes to die. That is death. The path that is hell, feels like hell, miserable, tormenting, agonizing, freedom is on the other side of that. Okay. So I love that quote from the bank regarding Narcissus. I weep because I saw my own beauty in his eyes, my own beauty reflected. Okay. And then I put my journey since taking the leap of faith. We got time. Okay. So I did a reflection yesterday because I was really curious. Because I've shared it before where it's like there's the person that I want, right? The woman whose name is written next to mine. And the flip of the script where I told God, not, bring me this person, make me into the man who is in union with this person, kind of a deal. And I reflected on the narrow path, which I consider is when I first took the leap of faith, when I first quit my job, January 15th, 2021. And I pursued rat life. And I asked myself, what did it cost? What did it cost? The whole, what did the narrow path, what was the price tag? If you think of it like a quest, right? What were the required assignments? What were those little bullet points? What were the line items? What were the hellfire that you had to endure, kind of a deal, for your own specific journey? And I was going through it, and I had 50 bullet points that I don't want to bore you and share all of them, but I was like, okay, so I quit my job January 15th, 2021. It was not 2 months later, I had to live in my Mustang for 7 weeks. I lived in my Mustang for 7 weeks, which, dude, the front seat couldn't recline all the way, so I couldn't sleep upright, so I had to fold the passenger seat as forwarded this way as I could, and put my torso on that, and then diagonally sleep because I'm 6'2", and where my lower half of my body was in the trunk of the car. And I did that for 7 weeks, and I did the math, and I said, it is cheaper to travel across Europe than it is to be homeless in California paying for the car note and car insurance and gas and food. I said, fuck this, I'm going to Europe. And then I reflected on that trip, and I did that trip for 6 months, and I was kind of homeless for 2 nights. One of the nights it was in Lake Bled in Slovenia, and I didn't have the money for a hostel, for 1 night accommodation. I didn't have $15. And so I remember I stayed up as late as I possibly could, and then snuck into the hostel to take a nap. And then I don't want to say I stole, but I kept with me the fucking blanket that I put the deposit down. So I guess I did steal it, but I paid the deposit for it. It was like €1, but it was a tiny little fucking tablecloth. But I did that for warmth. These are bad times. And yeah, and so I literally didn't have the means for the cheapest. It was like $15 hostel accommodation. And then I was visiting a friend in Germany, and the train connection, a tree fell on the train tracks. And one of the nights I had to sleep in an elevator at a train station. There was no taxi, there was no hotel. I literally was stranded on an elevator at a train station in the middle of nowhere in Germany, with nowhere and no means to go anywhere and to travel onward because the trains just stopped running after that last connection. And I was fucking freezing, and I put every layer of clothing that I had on top of me because it was in October, which is freezing in Germany. I know it gets worse later in winter, but for me, from Southern California, it was fucking ice cold. I could breathe and see my breath in the elevator. And which I went into that elevator because it was like refuge. It was like several degrees warmer from the outside. My point is that's one bullet point where I have a ton more. Homeless in an elevator in Germany, and I use that tablecloth from Slovenia as like a blanket to cover his bro. I get back and I run out of money in Barcelona. My phone got stolen in Amsterdam, and I closed the client that would be able to pay for my flight back to Ohio, where I had then had I stayed in a hotel for 2 months, paid for by my little sister, that I would sleep in a hotel room with my older sister in Illinois for 4 weeks, while the only food that I really had access to consistently was the fucking morning breakfast buffet thing at the hotel. And so I would get a ration of like the daily food, like a plate this tall of eggs and fucking brownies and whatever calories just to survive. And that was 4 weeks in Illinois. I go to my sister's place and I sleep on a blow-up mattress in Kentucky. It was uncomfortable, so most nights I slept on the floor for 8 weeks. And then I would go outside of her place, and it was so cold you had to scrape ice off of the windshield of the car. I would walk to the apartment gym through snow, through ice, through rain, storm. That was 8 weeks. I go back finally to California in February of that year, or February 2022, and I had to sleep on his floor for 5 weeks, fucking draining my tuna out of the kitchen sink, out of his bathroom sink. That was how I ate. For 5 weeks on a floor, not a blow-up mattress, literally on the floor beyond his bed, like a dog. And then, because our lease on our apartment that we're going to get together wasn't for 5 weeks since past my arrival, and then we go to the apartment and I live in a closet, literally just bigger than the Harry Potter closet in the movie Harry Potter, for 13 months, on a full-size blow-up mattress. That's the dimensions of this closet. For 13 months while taking the bus for 2 years. I had a drug overdose on mushrooms one of the days there, and I literally had no means to pay off what would become a $15,000 debt from Rat Life that I paid. It took me 3.5 years to pay that debt off in full, with interest and with accrued interest on the card. So I promised him 10% for taking on the venture, and then all accrued interest, that is credit card that we used to fund the 600 unit purchase order for the pre-workout, had accrued. And over that time, I learned that there's no way that I could pay off this debt from not having a job. So I felt like an entire failure for just going back to get a job, because I felt like that was me quitting and giving up. And so I took a job at Amazon because I couldn't get an interview anywhere else. I couldn't get reinstated about a job that I had worked for over 2 years for at my last school district. They wouldn't even reinstate me. And I worked at Amazon at a graveyard shift for 8 weeks with a fucking UCLA bachelor's degree. And that was, I was walking, at midnight to the 11:45 to the last bus, go through this fentanyl and meth area of Irvine, and then arriving at the facility because I didn't have a car 3 hours before my shift started, working up to double shifts, coming home. One of the days I had a fucking timer from working a full 12-hour shift, feet blistering, came home, slept for fucking, I swear to God, it was 10 minutes, 10 to 30 minutes, and then did it again the next day. So it was like a 48-hour, and that's where I developed indefatigability. That quote, "My unmatched perspicacity coupled with sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor." I was operating on fucking nothing, and I was still able to go and go and go. And you learn to have that no quit. So I did that for 8 weeks, but then I went to Brazil, and then I got jumped in Brazil, but so I, that black eye that I post on my Instagram. Going to Brazil, didn't have that job anymore, and I finally got a job a month later at a different school district, and I had to walk, because there was no bus connection to it, fucking 3 hours every single day in order to get from a cockroach. So after that 13 month of living on the floor in that closet, taking the bus, I got into a hostel from a guy I knew from the gym, the girl who I closed from, who I had personally trained in person before that trip, who paid for my flight back. who then I would give money to later, and it kind of evened itself out because I wouldn't end up online coaching her. So it was perfect in terms of good karma. She knew this guy was like a mutual friend kind of a deal, who knew about like her history of abuse and you know, getting hit by her ex, like boyfriend or husband or this. And so he offered me a place to stay at his I was going to put like Airbnb, like a hostel, but it was just him renting out rooms of his house kind of a deal. But it was renting out rooms of his house that the tenants were drug addicts, alcoholics. He was getting money anywhere he could, so he would have a homeless guy sleep in his car on his just empty lot. So there was homeless people there. And then there was a prostitute. She was my next door neighbor. There would be 3 a.m. It'd be 3 a.m. People would come over, and if, you know, because that would wake me up. And then they would do a 30 seconds is being generous, you know, personal best, and then bounce. And I was like, okay, I need to get the fuck out of here. This is just poison. And so I was like, I would rather live in my car than be around this toxicity. And so I did. And I lived in my car for 93 days over the course of 6 months, because I took like a 1 month reprieve living in a hotel because it was just fucking miserable. It was like, it was in the summer, so it was over 100 degrees. I'd go to, you know, sleep in a pool of sweat in my fucking car. Showering at the gym is fucking disgusting. And I did that for 93 days. And then I got back. I finally, you know, had, and I reasoned also to pay off the debt. I was like, I can pay this debt off. I just can't afford to live. No problem. I'll just live in my car. And so I did that for those 93 days over the course of those 6 months. And December 7th, this 2023, I finally got, be able to get into my own apartment again to celebrate. I had mushrooms and I had another drug overdose and I almost died. And then, you know, I was within the rat life. So I was working that job as of my last job as of July 10th, 2023. And I would work that for 18 months. So 6 of those months, or the first 6 months, I was, you know, on and off living in my car, which was, you know, a challenge. It was so hot. I needed to put the AC just to not fucking die in my car, because, you know, you're there during the day. My battery died and I would have to walk to and from work, and that was multiple hours of walking each way. And it's funny because, like, you know, the stories of, you know, oh, I had to walk, you know, 3, like your grandparents, oh, I had to walk 3 hours, like, to work, whatever. No, I actually had to. And yeah, dude. And then over that time, I went through my greatest heartbreak of, like, the only woman I've ever loved. And it was just, you're at, like, despair. If you talk about, like, things like depression, how much that's threatening when your circumstances, you waking up to living in your car and you're going to a job that's fucking miserable and you're having to, you know, shower in the gym. And it was just, I was so angry. But the anger and upset was with myself. And I was so, like, just livid with my circumstances, with my conditions, with my current assignment within life. And but then, maybe I'm kind of jumping back and forth, but I finished that, and then I got my apartment, and then endured 18 months of that slowly, like a frog being boiled over time, abuse, harassment, bullying, psychological abuse that would end in, you know, double investigations against me, where I was in 6 months of unlimited uncertainty, not knowing, you know. Prior to that, I was in a constant state of fight or flight, which induced all of my fucking, even the abuse over time, all of my heart issues and all of the anxiety and stress. And because every day you're going into work, knowing you're going to get bullied, knowing you're going to get harassed, knowing that they could fire you at any time, or uncertain whether or not they're going to fire you at any time. So then you're thinking about, okay, how am I going to live? How am I going to pay for my next, you know, bill or meal or whatever? And then on and on and on and on. And then that went on for 6 months until I got the notice that we're going to fire you or you can resign, kind of a deal. And so I was doing that whole audit. And then even throughout all of that, I also asked God, in my reflection, I was like, but also, how did you refine me? And from that sentiment of, I want to become the right man, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to become, you know, the man I know I can be, who, in my pursuit of truth, my most authentic self, who I'm meant to be, kind of a deal, not the person that I had to fortify myself into just to survive, or what beliefs and programming and conditioning that I was, you know, unknowingly subject to just based on my upbringing in my life. And I learned through all of these mirrors, all of these fears and limiting beliefs and insecurities that I had, which was like, I didn't know I had a fear of abandonment. until there was one girl who I was talking to. I went on like, it was like maybe two dates, 3 dates, whatever. And I was in like trembling, like with combating tears in my eyes. And I said, please don't give up on me. Like to myself, as I was pushing this person away, not knowing that nobody can abandon you. What happens is you abandon yourself. But I didn't know that stemmed from my parents divorcing when I was 10 years old and my father abandoning me as a fucking child. I didn't know that I had a feeling of unworthiness of friendships, of feeling unworthy of unconditional love, feeling unworthy of love in the absence of performance, in the absence of achievement. I felt so unworthy of that, just based on how I was raised, because that's how I would get the time, the attention, whatever, of my father, was through performance, was through excellence, was through academic excellence and achievement and awards and, you know, ribbons and all that shit. And that was gone. I had a fear of disappointing a father figure, which is something that's been kind of triggered on my martial arts journey right now, a wound kind of a deal, and that's been gone. And just on Christmas Eve, there was one where Marcelo, this larger than life, fucking such a big guy, like big in not just his physicality, not just in his champion heart and everything, but he's so just larger than life, charisma, charm, you know, humility, just character, integrity, will, leadership, everything. And he said, I view myself as such a small person. He's like, I don't know why. And I was listening to him talk, and I just knew that he was another mirror for me, because I knew that I've known for such a long time that I don't view myself the way other people view me at all. There's an incredible dysmorphia from, it could be from when I started my fitness journey, and I was my height of 6'2" at 145 pounds, and I view myself as that skinny kid who lacked the confidence to even go up to a woman. And when I listened to, there was a guy that was standing on the outside of his apartment building. He was reflecting on the whole, you know, interaction within me. And he was doing this impersonation of like this big guy, like he had his arms out here and this. And I was listening to him talking. I was like, because it was all in Portuguese. And I was like, I think he's impersonating me. When he, you know, and then he was saying in his Portuguese, he said, boa noite. And then he said, you know, no fala português. And I was just like, that's exactly what I said. But then I was looking at I was like, there wasn't any big guy out there. And then I was just like, no shit, he was talking about me. And all of these mirrors and all of these fears and all of these insecurities and limiting beliefs that have been refined, that have been let go of, that have been shattered, patterns that have been recognized. I had, you know, sex addictions, and I had, I wouldn't go on to the extreme of drug addictions, but that would be a vice that I used to have. And on this trip this past summer, lust was something that I never recognized as a pattern. And I was sitting at a table with a woman, and I made some joke, and she was like, I know you would. And there was just that one phrase that she said that was like an arrow, and it struck me. And I was just like, damn. And I reflected on that, and then in my, like, I was typing notes on my journal, just having a conversation with myself, with God. And this is a mirror for the recognition of lust kind of deal, something that I never knew I was combating with ever, just because I've always had charm and charisma and this, and me enacting that just felt like me expressing my true self. I didn't know about discipline or self-control or any of that. And with the path that I'm at now, it was another thing that, you know, in terms of not what did it cost you, but what has this season of refinement and you pursuing your most authentic, your most godlike divine self, what has it resulted in you doing or becoming? And this past 24th, I just crested 27 months of abstinence, and I shared with you earlier, not TMI or anything, but today's, I want to say Friday, the 26th, so it's 49, let's see, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55. Today's day 55 of retention. Just not depleting myself, not, depleting any of my godlike energy or creation energy, or however you want to not TMI appropriately describe it. But I was just going through this entire list, man, of the man that I've become along this journey, through this season of refinement, through this walk with God, through me being walked home, through my journey of authenticity. And it's incredible what the man that you become when you pursue truth. The relationship with God, I said I developed a relationship with God, with Christ. And then I've shared in a prior video, I don't give a shit if you believe me or not, I met Christ once. He was my Asian hygienist. I swear to God. And I know with 1,000% certainty that Asian lady was not who she presumed to be. But I say all of this to say it's just it's not a path that feels like hell or looks like hell. It is hell. It is so agonizing, and it brought me to the point of heartbreak and despair and just it's incineration. It's like the imagery of God's furnace or someone refining silver, and you have to go through this fire to remove the embellishments, everything that doesn't belong, all the impurities, all of the garbage that isn't you. It's fucking agonizing having those incinerated off of you, because you have to do all of that inner work to confront all of that truth, that this belief system is no longer serving me. This isn't a reflection of who I am or my potential. This is conditioned programming since you were a fucking child of I'm only worthy of conditional love. I'm only worthy of attention and time and effort from somebody else through achievement, through performance, all of this bullshit, and it's fucking agonizing facing all of that, of years and years and years of pain, of I don't like to play the victim card of this was generational trauma or from all these past lives. I don't buy into any of that. This is what the person that I've become, what I've had to contend with, all of my the projection that I've had that was never my fault or my responsibility, or just other people's lack, other people's insecurity, other people's projection. And just like in the movie where you see Elle Woods and her shine and her light kind of dim just for a moment, but imagine you carry that weight for a year or for a decade or for your entire life. It's that quote from Paulo Coelho, is life, it's not so much about becoming anything, it's about unbecoming everything that's not us. But that path, it takes a very long time, and it's a lot of inner work, and it's a lot of painful, a lot of nights where you're the only cheerleader, you're the only person consoling yourself, you're the only person drying your own tears. It's hell, but I swear to God, there's a freedom on the other side of being able to speak your truth, of being able to be yourself, to be able to operate with an authenticity, while every other motherfucker who, up until this point has just done, projection, fronting, pretending to be somebody that they're not. You'll get their resentment, their bitterness, their animosity, because they wish they could just be themselves. They wish they could just let go. They wish they could be loved for who they are and not that they've had to pretend to be. You know what I'm saying? But I learned the hard way that you'll never be loved for who you are if nobody knows who the fuck you are, from just all of the masks that you wear and the person that you just front as. All they know is who you've presented and then the person that you've pretended to be. So I reflected on that, and I just thought it was incredible, dude. How not woe is me or how hard my journey has been or anything like that, but it's like the cost of the narrow path, the cost of becoming or the price to pay to become the right man, the man that you could look at yourself in the mirror with pride, the man who now has genuine connections and acquaintances and friendships of just real honor, real integrity, real class and love, and people whose love you don't have to perform for or earn or any of those metrics, but you could literally the only requirement is just being yourself. And I just think that's beautiful. So I have more notes, so let me pause this and then we'll go again. Only formlessness allows you to truly surprise your enemies. By the time they figure out where you are and what you are up to, it's too late. It's very, very true. It's you not showing your cards, you not playing your hand. Because think about it, when you react, when you say with your facial expressions, what you just said bothers me, perturbs me, disrupts me, that is not giving yourself power, that's giving them power. When you share your vision, your dreams, your goals, your ambitions with people who do not have your best interests at heart, you arm them with ways to manipulate you, to intimidate you through fear tactics. You know what I'm saying? That's not empowering yourself. That's empowering people who are your enemy. And your enemy is just anybody who does not have your best interest at heart, who doesn't operate with unconditional love within their heart towards you. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say your total amount of friends, it's probably less than you can count on one hand, for that very reason. So I like that quote. Only formlessness allows you to truly surprise your enemies. By the time they figure out where you are and what you're up to, it's too late. It's the same with content creation on social media. When you post, when you're constantly posting and you're operating with speed, formlessness, they use a lot of military strategies, parallels within this law. They don't know what to attack. They don't, because you're in a constant speed and surprise. So if I post something, oh dude, I was just in Argentina, but now I'm in Sao Paulo. On the 30th, I fly to Rio. On the 1st, I go back to Buenos Aires. Like, they don't know, there's no time for your haters or your critics or whatever to talk shit on what you're doing. On the video that didn't work or wasn't, didn't have good reach, didn't have good engagement, whatever, you're editing a new video, for your business or for your mission, what have you. So just know that. That's power, formlessness, speed, and it's all a game of moving the fucking cups. You know that game where you have like a ball underneath and you're moving it, but you're constantly, I don't know. That's not in one of my notes, so that was like a Hail Mary kind of thing, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, next quote. The young show this most clearly. The young show this most clearly in terms of assuming formlessness, the enacting of this law. Having no set identity, trying on a variety of masks to express themselves. It's completely true, and it's actually the biggest sad point of observation within modern society. You notice this within the youth. Because of poor masculine and feminine leadership, the youth are lost. The youth are lost. And so what do? They turn to social media for these influencers, for these celebrities, for these idols to emulate. Or they sort of go fucking inward and I don't want to be like anybody else, so let me go to all these extremes in order to elicit significance. Tony Robbins talks about this. That's why people will get the 10th piercing and they'll color their hair the rainbow and they'll do everything and anything that they possibly can to shout, somebody please notice me, somebody please validate my existence, somebody please tell me that my life fucking matters, right? That I'm of value, because they don't have intrinsic self-love, that their cup isn't full for themselves, that they need that external validation. And that was another thing in my reflection that has been eradicated at this point. I'm not searching for this person. I'm not searching for external validation from other people. Even people who I really love and really admire and really respect, I no longer abandon myself based on somebody else's version of me that they've created in their head. I don't, fuck all of that. I'm no longer going to, allow your negative energy or your perception of me be my fucking responsibility. Allow me to dim my own shine. It's, I'm not going to give you permission. I don't want to give myself permission, give you permission to let me dim my shine. I'm butchering it, but you understand the sentiment. It's very, very true. We give people that power. We give other people the power to have ourselves be diminished, and then we blame them. But now, I think I got it. You're the one who gives them permission. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to. And that's perfect illustration. I know I'm butchering the fuck out of it, of you abandoning yourself. You saying, no, I need external validation from somebody else. I need someone to approve me of my authentic self. No, bullshit. When your cup is so full, when you're so, when you know who you are in Christ, when you know who in Christ consciousness, in your godlike divinity, when you know who the fuck you are, and you know you're operating with good intentions, with love in your heart, fuck what anybody else thinks. I remember somebody asked me that one time. It's like, how do you know you, something about your character? And I was like, how are you like so sure of your character, whatever? And I said, I know who the fuck I am when the camera's off, when nobody's watching. You know what I'm saying? And it's very, very true. And it's why the youth who are lost, who don't have good leadership, who don't have good role models, who don't have good parents. They'll go to all of these extremes and do all of these contours and all of this bullshit and wearing all these masks, and they're the furthest away from who they are. They're the furthest away from their authentic self because of fear. I'm so afraid to express my truth, to speak my truth, and not be accepted by the clan, by social media, by my fucking family that I'm forced to live with, whatever the mind of a fucking teenager is. And it's the sad reality that we live in a world through media, sorry for the noise, propaganda and manipulation that is coercing kids to conform to an identity that isn't in harmony with their true selves. Next quote. The formless courtier mask, not showing reaction to ignorance, stupidity, cowardice, etc. We talked about that. One must govern in such a way. I saw this in real time she used to be my friend, no longer. Her name's Jessica, lesbian. I was at her place 2022 to watch the World Cup, Argentina versus, I don't remember who they were playing against. And it was awesome. We watched it in Spanish. It was so cool. But what I observed was her manipulating the fuck out of her partner. She would want something to be closed, like a door or a window or something. But she would say to her partner, that window, I'm gonna get up in a few minutes to close it. She would do some sort of passive aggressive bullshit like that would manipulate her partner to go do the action that she wanted her to do. And I told her, I said, I know exactly what you're doing. And I'm gonna read you the quote from Robert Greene. And this is a quote from, her name's Catherine, who is one of the czars, I guess, of Russia, one of the leaders of Russia at a certain time. One must govern in such a way that one's people think they themselves want to do what one commands them to do. And she told me, she said, the trick is to get them to want to do what I'm wanting them to do. And it's fucking sickening, the level of manipulation that people utilize, especially on your partner. I was just like, if you have to fucking manipulate your partner like that, it's just complete garbage. I know men and women lead differently. I forget who I learned this from. It might have been Jordan Peterson. Because men are physical, we can navigate will physically. I can impose my will physically because of my physical prowess. Women don't have that advantage, so women have to use, he articulates, innuendo and like verbal manipulation. And it's really beautiful that within a husband-wife relationship, the woman leads internally. The man leads physically, but the woman leads internally. And it's quite beautiful when, sorry for the noise, when a loving spouse and a loving partner can get the man to do, what they want him to do, but what they know is in his best interest kind of to do. And it's not to say that the guy's not leading, in the physical reality, but women lead internally. They lead spiritually, but not as a form of self-interested fucking manipulation to where, let me get this person to do what I want them to do and get them to want to do what I want. It's garbage. When you use fucking manipulation and I heard something outside. I'm not gonna overuse the word. That garbage and these schemes and this deception and these, when you have to utilize the laws of power on your fucking spouse, it's garbage. And the reason is because, just like I talked about earlier in terms of being in a safe environment where you feel safe to let go, if you have to stand guard at the doorway of your mind to your fucking partner, that is such a shitty fight or flight, alert, state to live in on a fucking daily basis. Garbage. I'm never going to harbor that kind of a relationship where the other person feels, and it's also insulting to somebody who has the awareness and the intelligence of these schemes and these deceptive tactics. And so it's interesting. So if you have somebody who's, a strong intellectual opponent, it'll either get a smile on their face from the noble yet futile attempt, but also could also be construed as insulting. But also, from the way that I was raised, it's fucking needless. And as a man, you have to understand, this is actually very important for any young man watching this. What you tolerate is how you teach others how to treat you. So if you set the precedent within your relationship that that kind of behavior is okay for lies, for manipulations, for schemes, for deception, that is the framework that you're setting for the entire relationship. And if they're doing anything in a disrespectful manner, then you're setting the tone, the precedent, the standard that, it's a gnat, I am a man who tolerates disrespect. And then you have to self-reflect. How can a woman respect someone who tolerates disrespect? You know, and that was another thing that I learned through painful reflection, through my season of refinement. I would tolerate an abundant amount of disrespect, just because for that same Elle Woods spirit and love in my heart and naivety and gullibility, I thought they didn't know anything. I thought they didn't know what they were doing. I thought there's, it's not their primary language. Surely they don't mean what they, and because of how I was raised, being raised by a single mother, I don't want to use, that as a complete forfeit of an excuse, but you're not taught to not tolerate disrespect from other people, to not stand up to bullies immediately, to not call shit out the second that it happens, because of the tone that it's going to set for the entire working relationship with your partner, etc. So it's actually a good lesson for life. What you tolerate is how you teach others how to treat you. Same in the workplace. If somebody says a little jest, a little joke, a little nickname, or just some form of disrespect, and you tolerate that, you're teaching that person, like a fucking parent, that behavior is okay. And so you don't have to be abrasive or a dick or anything, but don't call me that. My name is this. And I actually had one of my coworkers do that. He would purposely mispronounce my fucking name like a clown in front of other new hires, and I called that shit out immediately. And yeah, from not tolerating disrespect is the moral of that story. And I understand the sentiment of the frustration of the needlessness when you're in observation or contact, whatever, with people who operate like that. I understand the frustrating sentiment behind it, because you see the redundancy within their actions. You see the needlessness in it. Why do you need you don't need to do that kind of a deal. I understand. But I also understand it from a biological lens of the woman. She has to test the safety, the safeguards, the parameters within the relationship. I need to be able to trust. I'm testing trust. I'm testing stability. I need to ensure that I'm not with a partner who tolerates disrespect, who is going to be so quick to anger, who's going to, not align with a lens of compassion and with love and with understanding within their heart, but is going to be just so quick to condemn and to criticize and to ostracize and to judge. So I understand it from both lenses, but I guess the main takeaway is just operate with love and kindness and integrity and good character and light within your heart and within your actions and your deeds. And then when you act as that transparent, who you're supposed to be, who you're meant to be, your world will be a prism reflecting that love and light back to you. Okay. To succeed at such a strategy, this was the quote that I started with, you must play the chameleon, conform on the surface while breaking down your enemy from the inside. Our fucking politicians do this shit with spades. The way that they gain the support is through the chameleon, is through saying shit to their people that they want to hear, that they are, this, and then you'll see them years later say a completely shifted stance. These people are fucking serpents and snakes and weasels and rats. That's why it's very important that it's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's not liberal, it's not conservative. There's truth and there's treachery. There's freedom and there's enslavement. And you have to have that awareness and discernment to be able to see through the veil and understand that things that you're seeing on social media, on the news, on the radio, it's controlled and deliberate and intentional information. It's information they want you to be privy to. They want you to elicit a provocation, an emotional reaction. They want you to be stirred up. They want you to be distracted. They want you to have your energy go from joy and gratitude and peace and fulfillment and light and authenticity, the highest one, to bitterness, anger, animosity, rage, despair, shame, the lowest one. Because when you're reciting in those low vibrations, you're so far away from your divinity, from your power, And that's where they want you. They want you as a cattle on the farm. They want to use you. They want to milk you. They want the wool. If you're a sheep, they want the meat, right? And then they'll discard you. You're being utilized as a fucking cattle on the farm for your resources, for your time, for your energy. And that's it. And then once you escape the rat life mentally, and you're actually able to see the video game beyond, the wizard behind the, whatever that phrase is, the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the mask, the wizard behind the fucking curtain, whatever. You get to see what these puppeteers are actually doing and how they're pulling the strings. And then you won't have that same emotional reaction because you're operating from a place of emotional control, of masculine leadership, of stoicism, right? Of patience, of response and not reaction, etc. Power in unpredictability. So that's just a bullet point. It's very, very true. If you don't know the next, attack that the enemy is going to do, you don't know how to defend yourself against it, right? So that's the formlessness. It leverages unpredictability, because if you have a form, they can see you, they know, and if you're very vocal about your goals and your strategies, whatever, that's not formlessness. That's, this is what I'm going to do. Okay, so let me position myself to be able to counter that, right? So there's power in unpredictability. To finish, victory in war is not repetitious, but adapts its form endlessly. It's from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. I'm going to say it again. Victory in war is not repetitious, but it adapts its form endlessly. And the analogy that I want to use is the pilot who adjusts his course 9,000 plus times from takeoff to landing. But let me plug back in the laptop and do something with the battery to make sure that my laptop doesn't die, because I'm trying to upload things to Google Drive before. Okay, one second. Okay, I don't know how many times I've shared it, but there's a fact, a statistic that I learned from Tony Robbins. It might have been from his book, Money Master the Game. I don't remember, but where he talks about that a pilot from takeoff to landing, so from, departure to destination, he course corrects over 9,000 times. On average, over 9,000 times, over 9,000 course corrects, iterations, changes, manipulations, to get to the same destination. There's a video, stay with me now. I don't want to share this or dilute the message, but it's hilarious. I'll share it really quick. This guy, he's on an interview, and he's like, I think he's a porn star, and he was doing a scene with a girl, and he was like, and you know what really hurt me is she whispered in my ear, and she said, go deeper, and stay with me now. I was already all the way in. He was like, and that really hurt me because I ran out of pee-pee. Anyway, so when I said stay with me now, that's what I was thinking. But I'm going to go back to what I said. Victory in war is not repetition, but it adapts its form endlessly. So when I shared with you what the price tag was for my narrow path, which I'm not, done with, I'm not, I don't know if I'll ever completely be all the way home. I think the pursuit of, your spiritual ascension is a lifelong pursuit. When I think of Christ, and I think of Christ consciousness, and I think of the energy level that we all have the potential to be, there's a scene that I saw, and I've never seen the movie, but it's from The Passion, that I can only imagine is a decently accurate representation and reflection of the scripture, where Christ is being crucified, and while they're saying, if you're the Son of God, if you're God, come take yourself off the cross, kind of a deal. And in that moment, Christ, he has the thorn on his head and all the lacerations, and his hands are nailed to the cross. He turns his head up to God and he says, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And when I think of Christ as the ultimate mirror, the ultimate mirror of the potential of the ascension that we have to be as our truest self, as our most authentic, most loving, most compassionate, highest integrity, highest character, purest form, the child that we once were before a single program, a single limiting belief projected onto us, a single software line code script of conditioning, without a single one, just us in our purest form. And I think of that quote, and I think of how far the distance that I have to travel of the man that I know that I will never be. You know what I'm saying? Like, for you to be, saying to God, please forgive the people who are murdering me. That's despite my heart and despite my potential. That's a level that I don't know if I ever will be able to attain within a lifetime. But I love the fact that to be a Christ-like mirror, a Christ-like individual, is something that we all have the potential to be. And I think that's the best life lived, is the pursuit of that gap, the pursuit of closing that gap of where you are right now on your journey home. And the highest, think of Super Saiyan Goku when he's Super Saiyan Blue and he defeats Jiren in the Tournament of Power. The highest form of authenticity, the highest form of energetic, spiritual, vibrational, frequential ascension that's possible within this reality. I think that's a life that's lived so well into its fullest potential, is the pursuit of authenticity, the pursuit of truth, the pursuit of your walk home until, right? Sorry for the gnat there. You can't see the gnat. There's a gnat. Until you wake up from this dream, kind of a deal. But I share all of that to say that my path is unique to me. My path home of authenticity is all of these insecurities and projections and limiting beliefs and fears that I had based on my history and lifetime of experience, of interactions, of parentage, of etc. It's not to say that for you to reach breakthrough, for you to escape the rat life, for you to embody what it means to be your godlike self, is going to require the same blueprint, because that's not how the fucking game works. You know what I'm saying? It's not a one size fit all script. There's a quote from Tony Robbins. He says, "Success leaves clues, but nobody can tell you the video game for your life." I can tell you from experience, the way that it works when you decide to take the leap of faith, when you decide to pursue, the adventure of a lifetime, what Santiago did within The Alchemist, all you're going to be able to see is the next step. And that's you're going to be faced with more uncertainty that is palatable, because you're stepping into the unknown. There's that beautiful poetic quote I shared earlier in this university, where the guy says, he's reciting poetry, and he says, "How do you know where you are when you're lost in the forest?" And he said, "Stand still. Stand still." He said, "How do you know where you are when you're lost in the forest? Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Stand still." It's a beautiful poem. But that's the game. When you're going on your hero's journey, when you think of Hercules, when you think of Mulan, when you think of any person who's gone the distance, it's going to require you to go far from home. It's going to require you to go very far out of your comfort zone. It's going to require you to go through what people call like the dark night of the soul, where you're going through God's furnace, where you're being forged into the man or woman that it is written for you to become. Like Aragorn, put aside the not to quote Lord of the Rings, but what was his name? The Elven King. He said, "Cast aside the ranger, become the man that you were born to be." Lord Elrond. Cast aside the ranger, become the man that you were born to be. That is the cost of the hero's journey. It's fire and it's agony and it's going through hell, and it's Frodo and Samwise going to fucking Mordor. It's a pilgrimage. It's the path least traveled. It's like right now and I saw a quote the other day, and it said, "You're living your dream life," and it's like, it's a heavy. What is that quote? Heavy is the crown. I don't know, but the cost is it's very painful. It's very painful. The reward is invaluable. The alternative is hell. You know what I'm saying? The alternative is enslavement. Spiritual enslavement, financial enslavement, physical enslavement, geographic enslavement, emotional enslavement, you becoming the person who enacts the quote, "Most men lead quiet lives of desperation." That's the fucking alternative for cowardice. Or that's the guarantee for cowardice. The alternative for courage, for you pursuing your truth, your walk home, your path of authenticity, right? Your hero's journey. And because I know that quote, because I'm cognizant of that scene in the Matrix where Trinity, talks to Neo. He says, Neo, but you know that path. You've been there before. You know where it leads. Anybody who's going back to the rat life, to the 9 to 5, to the comfortability, to the known, to I get all my predictability back. You get you get the forfeiture of your authenticity, the forfeiture of your dreams and your ambitions. That's the cost for the fucking safety net of your paycheck, right? And it's the most disheartening fucking thing in the world, is seeing all of these beautiful souls and spirits who have the potential to pursue the adventure of a lifetime and get to live out the euphoria of emitting, exuding, being your true, authentic, honest, loving, bright, shining self. It's such a shame that most people will never know that freedom, never know that peace, that harmony, that tranquility, because they didn't have the courage to embark, to have the courage to pursue. When I say rat life, it starts with belief in the courage to pursue, but to continue the pursuit. Because what I can tell you from experience is the way it works is you'll find God along the way. God is his image, so it's you will be the reflection of a godlike person. People will look at you and see God through you. He's on this path of truth. He is the path of truth. He is truth. And what you're going to find is, and I love this, and I learned this from one of my mirrors on this path, actually from one of the girls from the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym, and I shared it, I think, in a prior video, where I was like, she's not going to listen to what I say. She has an incredible ego, good riddance, not my responsibility. And then I thought back to another girl, an old friend, what she taught me. And it's what a true friend is they don't run ahead of you. And they'll stay there waiting. And that's what it means to be a Christ-like figure, to give unconditional love. Not, I'm going to give you love and patience and compassion and understanding so long as you adhere to what I say, under the condition of what I tell you to do, right? Even if it's meant with, goodwill and good intention. I'm trying to spare you from all of this work. Your journey, you might have to learn the hard way. Maybe that's how you learn. I told it to my boxing coach. I was like, if I missed the sequence, please hit me in the face with his mitt. I said, that's how I learn. And I learned, unfortunately or fortunately, the hard way. I don't need to learn the hardest way. I don't need to get completely decimated. I don't need a black eye or a broken jaw. But, if I get this the hard way, boom, my hand will be right here, so that doesn't happen again. It's the fastest feedback loop for me to improve, to iterate. Some people need that, you know what I'm saying? And so you have to put your ego to the side and say, I'm still going to be here when you're ready on your own time. And so that was a lesson that I needed to learn. I saw it. I had all of the other opportunities in this pattern, this mirror. I saw it with Matthew McConaughey. He said in a relationship, you're going to be at 100 miles an hour and she's going to be at 0 miles an hour. Or you're going to be at 50 and she's going to be at 80 or whatever. And he said that you can't run ahead, like when have a lot of momentum in your personal development and your growth and you're just going, and they're like in a slump, you can't just leave them behind. That's how people grow apart. You can't just say, no, I'm going to leave you in the dust and this kind of deal. You're two people in the fucking rowboats, and one person's problem is the team's problem, at least for a successful, and I learned this from one of my Muay Thai coaches, or one of my Muay Thai coach, Giovan. He said that's the secret within a long-lasting, healthy, successful marriage. Is married for, I want to say, like 20 plus something years. And he was like, as soon as there's a problem, we communicate it, we discuss it, we don't go to bed with passive aggression, no. Let's talk about it, let's address it. Marcelo also said it. He said, you don't have to talk to me, it's okay, but I just want you to know that I'm here when you're ready, kind of deal. And that's how you don't have these problems compound and fester and this, and then grow apart, kind of deal. I don't want to lose my train of thought regarding problems. Let me pause this 1 second while I reassess. I don't quite remember, but that was I had that opportunity with the Matthew McConaughey, but I didn't internalize it. I just observed it, so it went away. Then I had a conversation with my friend Leah where she said that thing, and I was like, okay, and then I didn't internalize it. And then it happened with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu girl, and then I finally recognized the pattern. And that's the key to transformation on your journey. It's you'll get all of the mirrors, but until you are present enough to recognize the pattern, and which elicits a behavior change, then you'll never ascend, kind of a deal. And then I had that first initial reaction, good riddance, you're on your own, you're not gonna listen to me, fuck off. And then I said, I thought about this person, I thought about this person, I thought about this interview, and I thought about what it means to, what my favorite thing about God is, and I've always said, he doesn't run ahead of you. He waits there patiently with his lantern, showing you the very next step to take. Doesn't matter how far astray you go, how lost you are in your journey, you know, how far you've gone away from God. He literally, with the epitome of unconditional love, I'm going to continue to love you regardless of, not on the condition that you do what I say, from all this pain that I'm trying to spare you from, not on the condition that you like me at the time or whatever. I'm going to love you regardless, unconditional. I'm going to support you unconditionally, meaning I will stand here waiting while you learn the way that I know that you need to learn, kind of a deal. And so once I recognized that pattern, I was like, I'm going to change my behavior. And then all of a sudden, boom, that's where you unlock the next level on your, or the next step on your journey home. But my whole point in sharing all of this with you is, in terms of law number 48, assume formlessness, the narrow path is the hardest path, because you will only get a lantern amount of light from God. You'll only be able to see the very next step that you need to take. You'll only be given that insight or that download or that whisper within your spirit. And if you betray it, if you get this insight, that's, most people have the arrogance of saying, wow, I just had a great idea. Motherfucker. No, it was gifted to you. That whisper, that download, that insight. I like to think of it as if one of God's angels are just like in my ear, and they say, what about this? I wonder what, and then you articulate and you verbalize it and you say, I wonder what would happen if I blank. And then people with all of their arrogance, say, wow, that was my, ingenious, and it's just fucking ridiculous. But my point is this, to finish my point. If you don't do that, why would God gift you more? And I learned that from Bashar as well. He said, when you've been given instruction and you're not listening to it, why would I continue to give you more instruction? If you're not grateful for this gift that I've given you, and your gratitude is reflected in your actions, why would I continue to give to you? And so that's why you can also, it's a side point tied into the God universe, they love gratitude. They love gratitude. I love to give to somebody who not only appreciates what I have given them, but like a building block, they make something beautiful of it, and then I'm so encouraged and inspired to give them more, just as encouraged and inspired you are to give more to somebody who listens to you, who appreciates your value, who sees and recognizes your value, versus the person who you're giving all of your time, your energy, your effort, your love to, and you're just being fucking dismissed. And the worst part about that is it conditions a belief that that's what you're worth and that's all you deserve. And I've had that in the past too. And so it's another thing that you have to recognize. And that pattern, not to go on all these tangents, for me wasn't lifted until I listened to a video. It was just a woman talking just on her camera, and I was driving to the gym to meet my brother. And she said such a powerful quote. She said, love is not something that you earn, it's something that you recognize. And I meditated on that for that entire morning, that entire day, that entire evening. And I thought back to all of the, time and attention and affection and love that was always conditional within my life, that I had to earn, that I had to achieve, that I believed I was only worthy, therefore and forever onward, of achieving, of, this. And I had that limiting belief of, when I have a six pack, when I'm this, muscularity, when I earn six figures, then I'll be enough, then I'll be worthy of this job, this relationship, this, whatever. So it's a journey, man. It's a journey, but that's it. I'm gonna end it there. That is the end of the 48 Laws of Power. I will do an entirely separate video of this book number. I don't have it with me, but it was so cool. Who was it? It might have been did I buy it? I don't know if I bought it, if it was a gift from my mom. I may have bought it, but it also might have been a gift from her. Where you bend the spine of the book like this, or I don't know if it's a spine or whatever that is, and you see Niccolo Machiavelli on this side, and then you see Robert Greene on this side. It is so cool. It's in storage with my sister's stuff in Fresno. Oh, I love that. But that's it. The other thing that I wanted to say, if you take away anything from this video, I'm so excited about it. I finally got the ball rolling. The ball, not the bull, not from New York, Boston. I finally got the ball rolling on the website, escapetheratlife.com. And it's so beautiful because I was utilizing ChatGPT to help me make the website, and we were just going step by step. I was explaining the vision, I was explaining everything, and they're listening to me. The entity was giving me like step by step in terms of the message that you want to convey, the audience that you're trying to reach, the scalability, all this. And while I want to make certain tweaks to make it not my own voice, I reached the capacity for, sorry for the noise outside, the amount of like free, AI usage that you fucking have allotted for today, whatever. So it's like you have to wait until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in order to, continue to use. But I wanted to just share with you guys the structure that I have for the website so far. So there's the homepage where right now it just says anyone can escape. It starts with belief. This battery's gonna die. Let me change it one sec. And the next page is the narrow path. The narrow path. I was, he was saying, oh, do you want to do my beginning, my journey, my story? And I put the narrow path. That's what I want to title it, because that is the path that you're embarking on within your pursuit of truth. It is the narrow path. It is the path least traveled, but the one that it's the only one to freedom. And when I was thinking about what escapetheratlife.com is, I said first it's an escape. It's an escape from the no. It's escape from the noise. It's escape from all of the bullshit, all of the distractions, all of the projections, all of the no's within your life. I want it to be an escape from the garbage, right? I want it to be a home, right? He said, oh, it's like a refuge, like a sanctuary, like an oasis, like a place where people feel safe to let go. But also a place where you have the resources to escape the rat life. And then he's like, what is rat life? In one word, I was like, freedom, And so my vision was, and this is the next tab, is library. So I have, within this university, I've shown you most of the books that I've read on personal development, some of the best books on personal development in the world. And I have an Excel spreadsheet of all of the ones that I've read and want to read. And it's a list that some people will never be privy to in their entire lives, and it's not that I can give someone the book, but we're able to give them the awareness and therefore the access to this literature, to this education, to the best books ever written on personal development. And it's going to be a free resource on the website, library. So we have home, just anyone can escape. It starts with belief. The narrow path, I have a short paragraph of writing, and I think I want to put my own journey, like when I was I am 6'2", when I was 18 years old, weighing 145 pounds, because that plants the seed of belief within somebody else for a transformation. If that was his starting point, if he can do this, if he can get to his after, I can too. And I had that same sentiment with the video, Ziz the Legacy, that planted that seed of belief within me. And that's all people need. They just need to know that it's possible. Not that it's possible for them necessarily, but that it is possible. A transformation is possible. If you show someone who had this start, who had this uphill battle, who had this mountain to climb, it'll plant the seed within that, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid around the world, doesn't even need to speak English, who says, dude, if it's possible for him, it's possible for me. And then that is that ripple effect of life is about planting trees under whose shade we will never sit. It's fucking awesome. And so the next one that I have is university. And university is going to be all of these videos that are on my YouTube that are free, embedded within escapetheratlife.com. And then, which is awesome. And then in the future, I want to do a training archive where, as the ultimate resource, so we give them all of the books ever written on personal development that they have, all of the titles and names access to, so that they can get the best education for free. And not to say you don't have to buy the book, but they get access to all of the books that they possibly need to develop themselves to the fullest, because your real education is going to come outside of school. So imagine that you could get the best education ever for free. Not with a fucking, university, not with student loan debt, not with anything. So it enacts the mantra of anyone can escape, anyone can live a life of freedom, anyone can be free, and freedom is within knowledge, freedom is within education. But the next thing that I want to do also is, imagine somebody who's never stepped foot in the gym. The ultimate resource for them would be a video archive of all of the exercises that they could possibly need for the transformation. Saying just a one-stop shop. So it's like, oh, here's a before and after, and then here's all the arm exercises, all the chest exercises, all this. So in the future, what I want to do is have somebody film me, and then me do the voiceover commentary of exactly what is going on in the video. Okay, this is why I bend my arms this way. This is what you're going to want to do here. This slight twist is for this contraction, etc. So someone can literally just go to the website who has never stepped foot in the gym ever in their life, and they have all of the tools and resources that they need for their own, personal transformation. So we're able to help them achieve freedom, an escape from their rat life physically, an escape from their rat life intellectually, and therefore emotionally. And then spiritually, that'll bleed into financially and relationally. And then the next tab after university is heroes, and that's going to be the testimonial page of other people's stories, other people's journeys, other people's transformations, other people who have walked the narrow path, or people who I've met on my journey, who have given me like a text of this written testimonial kind of video, which I unknowingly gathered a good archive of them during my time here the last 3 months in Brazil. And then the next tab is going to be the garden, which is just going to be called Garden, which that's going to be the membership only. So just the people who are wanting to commit to being in my garden. And I have to talk with my business partner, ChatGPT, about it. But I think what I want to do is just like $10 a month or $100 for the year for the membership. But that's where I'm sharing the entire journey of what I'm doing. Like I've documented every single day, and it's what I'm currently editing and unlisting and posting on YouTube. And then those will all be embedded within that. And it's going to be a video archive from day one of going into a martial arts gym to taking it as far as I possibly can. And that's going to give people daily accountability, daily insight, motivation, word of inspiration, words to continue to fuel the fire within their own journey, and just keeping that beautiful, nourishing garden where we eliminate all of the noise, all the bullshit, all of the garbage, and a place where people feel safe to let go from my authenticity, from my transparency, my honesty, and the raw, the vulnerable, the transparent. And I love that membership, nourishing garden, a home, a sanctuary, a place where people feel safe to let go. That's embedded there. And then I think a contact page. But I just want to share that. I'm very excited because I got the skeleton of it finally. It's like that first step is like the hardest, where like you're getting the hosting. First, I've already paid for the domain, then you have to purchase hosting, and then you connect the hosting to the domain, and then you have your website, and then you make it through WordPress or whatever. And then because you don't know I need Elementor and I need Astra for the appearance. It's a lengthy process, but I've got the skeleton of it. So I don't know if it'll be launched immediately by the new year. I'm going to do my best to work on it, but I'm very, very excited because that has an incredible potential over time, because you don't need very many people in the garden to have real impact, because of the quote, life is about planting trees under your shade will never set. If you can inspire belief within one person and they're able to become as a result, that's a net positive for their entire circle of influence, and that's how that ripple effect spreads exponentially across the world. So it's really going to be incredible where this journey takes me, or takes us. We're here together. And I love the sequence of everything. I love that everything has happened for a reason, how it's all scaffolded, how when I stopped selling pre-workout because I knew that wasn't the answer. Not to say that's not something that I don't want to return to and sell in the future, because I love pre-workout. But I knew that education was the problem that we're trying to solve. Belief was the gap that we're trying to bridge. And that's the reason that I pursued the university. It's also for my own personal accountability, because I wanted to read all of the best books ever written on, personal development, literature, and just, pursuing truth and developing myself as a man, as an individual. And I love that we have the university for free on YouTube, fully disseminated, fully articulated, fully discussed, unrushed, and I love that we're going to have that archive access on the website, and all the books that I haven't read and that other people can read, and it's just to have that, to have the training archive, to have the, a shop in the future, to have the garden, to have testimonials of people around the world, and to be training at martial arts gym. Right now I'm in Brazil. I did 11 weeks and now I guess 12th week because I did a private session. So 157 total workouts. It was like 43 of them bodybuilding as well. So about just over 100 on just martial arts training within Brazil. And then however many we're going to do in Argentina and then the next country. And it's just, you're witnessing, man. You're witnessing the adventure of a lifetime in real time. So I want to end it there. That is the 48 Laws of Power. EscapeTheRatLife.com, coming soon. We are all going to make it. Tarek Houks. And what is rat life? Anyone can escape. It starts with belief and the courage to pursue. That's what rat life is. That's what it will always be. And what rat life is freedom, man. It's freedom. And when I say the escape, dude, it's the escape from whether it's your 9 to 5, the physique that you're unhappy with, the relationship you feel like you're unworthy of, the life that you feel, or that I felt when I was 18, was only, for the sacred few, for the gifted, for the special, for the elite, something that I wasn't privy to, worthy of, whatever touch, whatever realized within my journey. But I was gifted on my journey of people who gave me the gift of severity, who planted the seed of belief in me that, traveling the world is possible for you. Being able to bench more, it's a basic example, is possible for you. You becoming this fitness model lookalike, this kind of caliber of your physique, of your physical potential is possible for you. And you have these people like Greg Plitt, like Aziz Shavershian, who have both passed away, who have led on the narrow path. A quote from Greg Plitt, lead a path for others to follow. And it's like, now we have the opportunity to pick up that torch, to pick up that gauntlet of where they left off and take it forward. Because I believe within all of my heart, there's a specific amount of souls that you are charged with, as in, based on the way that you process, you articulate, you resonate with people, there's only there's a fixed number of people that only resonate with you. As in, there are people out there that only I can reach. And I don't say that with arrogance. I say that with cognizance of resonance, of the way that I speak. Somebody who's more abrasive and more brash and more this, they'll reach X, Y, X people. Somebody who's more this spoken, they'll reach these people. There's the way I talk, my history, my story, my whatever, my gifts, my I have the potential, the possibility, and you could turn it as I have the responsibility to reach these. These are the people who I am charged with. And when you have that level of responsibility that you put upon yourself, that cross that you pick up to bear, it gives you an immense degree of purpose within your journey. So it's quite beautiful to see what story that we will be able to tell and what will become of Rat Life and of Tarek Houks and of everybody who's within the garden, who's on the team, and by journey's end. So it's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be an adventurous ride, but I'm gonna leave it there. We're all gonna make it, and I will check in with you at the full recap of my position towards the book, which every single person should read, in my opinion, the 48 Laws of Power. And then the next book that we're going to read is the 33 Strategies of War. Talk to you guys later. Bye.